Was there a video I wanted to watch? I'm going to play some games here in just a fucking moon unit. But I thought I would, oh yeah, there was. I wanted to watch the How Money Works. We haven't watched How Money Works in a while. How Money Works has a video called Silicon Valley's Strange New Obsession. And it's about escaping the permanent underclass, which is a phrase you are hearing over and over in Silicon Valley type spaces. The permanent underclass. We're very worried about it. They are, it's AI based. And so I wanted to watch this video and see what How Many Works had to think.
Thanks to SimpliSafe for sponsoring this video. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
Sure.
Silicon Valley is no stranger to a lot of goofy insider terminology for what are really some pretty basic concepts. Move fast and break things, building in public, minimum viable personality, vibe coding, 10x, AI native, cloud native.
That was my favorite Silicon Valley phrase when you were there, was dog fooding. And the idea was you have to eat your own dog food. If you know what that means, it means everyone at the company should use the company's product. Your question mark? You know, that's a real Silicon Valley phrase. Amazon's big about it, about eating your own dog food. And it basically means that, like, if Amazon makes it's basically like if you work at Twitch, you got to watch Twitch and use Twitch and stream on Twitch occasionally, so you know how the fucking product is. My manager says dog fooding 10 times a day. Yeah, it's like if you worked at, I don't know, name a place that you work. You have to use the product outside of your work hours to keep profits in-house. It's not really why. It's not big enough scale to do that. It's like, the idea is you don't see the problems of it unless you use it. And so often companies will, listen, I mean, the truth is Twitch could have used more dog fooding for real. Like, I'm not kidding. The problem with Twitch is that the people running Twitch never fucking use it. For the longest time, they had no idea what viewers wanted or streamers wanted, and they kept shoving through ideas that were absolutely terrible. They should have been actual users of the product.
Of crypto native, post scarcity, post abundance, post nut, pre revenue, pre idea, Uber for agentic software as a service with taste and trust as a moat, is all more or less the same way of saying.
It's kind of like, I mean, another company that has this. I'm sorry, I'm still on dog fooding. But it's like Microsoft tried to have a big push for this because they found out that every Microsoft employee was not using any of their like Surface products. They were all using Apple. They were all using Apple. And then when it came to like things like Microsoft Teams, like internal teams at Microsoft were using Slack because they preferred it because it was better than Teams. And so they weren't even like bothering to fix their dog shit products because people that worked there didn't want to use them. And that's I think this still happens, but they obviously made a push to try and stop it. It was dog fooding. Everyone uses Claude, not Copilot. Yeah, that's true right now. Yes, right now. All the companies building competitors to Claude, almost all of them use Claude. So they should dog food a little bit more.
We are out of capital runway and we need another funding round. Now, as fun as it is to joke about all of this, the reality is that most of the people actually inside this industry are aware of how silly this all really sounds. And as a former finance bro, I can't exactly throw too many stones in the glass house of dumb buzzwords.
Sure.
But there is one new buzzy phrase that is generally being taken a lot more seriously, and is also a lot less funny.
How do you think you can escape the permanent underclass?
Fear of being stuck in the permanent underclass.
Jarvis! Hey, I went to a basketball game with him just a short while ago. That's cool. I didn't know he talked about this kind of stuff at all. I thought Jarvis mostly talked about later topics.
Class.
And you and I will get left in the AI underclass forever.
Escaping the permanent underclass has become a warning that your value as a human being is on a strict depreciation schedule, and that these next few years may be the last opportunity we have left before society is forever split between the people who own enough assets to support themselves independently in a fully automated utopia, and everybody else who has no further value, at least as far as the market is concerned, because their labor has been entirely undercut by machines. It's pretty grim stuff. And putting aside the small little technicality that this is the future they are working hard to create,
Sure.
This idea is being taken seriously enough that it's worth understanding why. Why does Silicon Valley...
I'm taking the under on this. Not that there's not people that want to do this. I think the friction between where we're at now and something like this being created is so much higher than people think. AI has been not even that successful, but more successful at coding automation than other things, because coding is a closed loop, entirely digital, easy to verify whether it's right or wrong thing, task. And so that has made it uniquely suited for what deep learning and AI can do. And even still, it has many, many flaws. And so the idea that it's going to be applied one-to-one to other tasks, I think, is way, way, way overblown in terms of the speed and veracity of rolling it out. And I think that middle period where everyone is upset is where big changes in structure come. And they're acting like that's not going to happen. It's acting like it's coming next week. And it's just, I think that's a huge overblown, but we'll see what he says.
They think they are going to create a permanent underclass. What steps are they taking to make sure they are on the right side of the widening demographic gap? And why are they treating this like it's an inevitability?
It's hard to say.
I just watched a video of a robot kicking a Chinese kid in the chest. Yeah, I watched that too. What we understand is like, if you needed to industrially kick a lot of Chinese kids in the chest at scale, it actually makes a lot more mistakes. It's not reliable. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't reliably kick a bunch of kids in the chest for what you need to be relying on. And so that's the problem. It's not quite there for that.
Exactly what that moment is, but there will come a point where no job is needed. You can have a job if you want to have a job for sort of personal satisfaction, but the AI will be able to do everything.
AI is the biggest technical thing ever in my lifetime. I mean, it is so profound, and therefore its influence is hard to overstate.
You graduated?
I was told by a lot of people that I was going to get a job right out of college, and then all of a sudden, there's no jobs.
That's true.
So like most of the best Silicon Valley creations, this permanent...
Although, I want to mention, and I guess still got to see data on this because it's like very, very vague right now. But there is some data indicating that the hiring collapse in tech jobs is starting to turn, in that it's not really at the biggest companies. It's like the ability of somebody with very little experience to do like 50%, 60% of what an experienced person can do with AI is allowing a lot more companies to hire a developer, but it is cheaper. It's not like the higher income job that it was before, but it is seeing some job growth. But this is kind of early. I don't know if I could reliably take this data, but there is some trend in going this.
Underclass started out as let's call it a joke that ended up being taken a bit too seriously and ultimately just put a Silicon Valley spin on an idea that already existed. And that idea is social mobility, or in plain English, how easy it is for a poor person within an economy to become wealthy if they work hard, make smart decisions, and don't waste their money. The other side of the same equation is how easy it is for a wealthy person to end up poor if they make bad decisions, don't work hard, and do waste their money. But that part is generally left out.
I'm glad you said that. That's the most important part. That's the part where we really fucked it up. That is the part where we've made it so like once you get to this certain level of wealth, there's such a structural advantage you can't fuck it up. Everything is protecting you from losing it. No matter how stupid, no matter how outcompeted you are. There's no chutes. There's like few ladders. The ladders do exist, so they're getting rarer, but the chutes aren't there. And that's the fucking problem. You have to have a lot. There should be more chutes than ladders.
Anyway, the point is, if moving up and or down between economic classes is really easy, your country has good social mobility. Even the term underclass is not new. It comes from the 1960s when an economist, Gunnar Myrdal, used it to describe people who were long-term unemployed, underemployed, or outright unemployable to the point where they were cut off from general society. This was primarily in reference to communities that had gone through rapid deindustrialization. So when tech...
Imagine this though, but with League of Legends and porn. Okay? They've really upgraded the permanent underclass. They've made it a lot more attractive. That's a nightclub in Berlin. This is like where my family went to New Year's. I told that story. My dad thought it was like a high-end New Year's party for families, and it was like a German rave in an industrial warehouse. And me and I'm like 16. We're all wearing our nicest outfits, and we show up. My dad's in a suit. My mom's in a nice dress. We're like sitting on crates in the corner. That was crazy.
In reference to communities that had gone through rapid deindustrialization. So when tech bros say these are the last years to escape the permanent underclass, what they are really saying is that social mobility is about to get so bad that if you are not financially independent before the machines take your job, you are going to be in this underclass forever with no way to escape.
No.
Again.
First of all, what you're not realizing is that if there's a permanent underclass and social mobility is gone, there will still be the Beast Games. Is he stupid? Once we have the Beast Games, it'll allow people from any one of the underclass areas to rise up to wealth by doing a series of crazy challenges for Mr. Beast. So we're fine. We'll have social mobility.
This idea is most
from any district. People from any district will be able to enter the Beast Games and become famous.
They're amongst tech workers who are in many cases the people building this future, which we will get to. But first, there are really 3 reasons why this way of thinking has taken off. The first is that even without widespread AI adoption, it's kind of already happening. In 1940, roughly 90% of American children earned more than their parents did at the same age. By the time millennials entered the workforce, that number had fallen to just 50%. According to a study from economist Raj Shetty and his team at Harvard's Opportunity Insights. Productivity, GDP, corporate profits, all of that kept going up. The gains just stopped being distributed the way they used to be.
Yep.
The mechanisms behind this are not exactly
Ronald
a
Reagan.
mystery. Union membership, which once covered about 1/3 of American workers, has fallen to around 10% according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The median home price in America is now roughly 5 times the median household income, according to Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies. Between 2019 and 2024 alone, home prices rose 48%, while household incomes rose just 22%, according to data from the Fed. So, the single most common wealth-building tool available to most Americans, owning a home, is increasingly out of reach for the
people. Can I ask this honest question? If you are a young person in chat and you're worried about the price of homes and like the unaffordability of the world, why did you simply not buy a home 20 years ago? It's hard for me to wrap my head around. Like, why didn't you just get a home earlier and now it would be appreciated in value? You'd have a lot more money. Is it because you're stupid? Is that the honest reason? That's what I ask myself every day. Like at the end of the Great Recession, which you should have known was at the end, why didn't you just buy one? It's just a strange...
People who need it most. Education, which was supposed to be the other ladder, has risen 312% in inflation-adjusted terms since 1963, according to the Education Data Initiative. The average federal student loan balance per borrower is now $39,633 according to the Department of Education, which means...
we just talked about that guy going to medical school, $70K a year in loans just for what, undergrad? So yeah, 280 at the, absurd. That level of debt is just such a drastically increased risk profile. You have to nail it out of college or you're just drowning in the interest costs alone. It scares me. It scares me right now. I've got a good level of income. Having that much debt is just scary.
The very tool that was supposed to help people climb the income ladder now starts them off in a financial hole that takes years to dig out of. And all of these trends had been true well before LLMs became as mainstream as they are today, leading to the reasonable fear that widespread automation is only going to make an existing trend significantly worse. According to a report by McKinsey & Company, over 1/3 of someone's lifetime realizable wealth is tied up in their human capital. Which is just a very clinical finance bro way of saying that unless you are already very independently wealthy, your greatest asset is all of the future hours of your lifetime you can trade in exchange for money. Sure, you can reinvest those earnings.
Yeah, and I think the best example of this is Ivanka Trump, who has really traded her human capital, the hours, the sweat equity of walking that beach barefoot, establishing the island, visualizing the land, That what she's done there is built up real wealth through real effort. That is her human capital being traded for earnings. And it's sweat equity. Walking up that breathtaking hill. You know what I'm saying? These things are what gave her that opportunity. And if you find yourself being jealous of it, it's a bad look.
Or make those hours more valuable by acquiring marketable training. But your financial foundation is still tied up in being able to sell that time. The problem is that if a viable competitor enters the market for hours of human work, natural market forces dictate that those hours will simply be less valuable. This is especially bad for young people who statistically...
I mean, this is bad because young people, their biggest dream was working in a Labubu factory. Every young person I know, that's the career they've been hoping for. And if that gets automated, it's like, well, there goes the ball game, bro. That was the whole plan.
Hours will simply be less valuable. This is especially bad for young people who statistically have more future hours to sell and have had less time to build up alternative sources of cash flows. Now, all of this is clearly pretty grim, but to a lot of people, the solution is to just make sure that they have enough saved and invested as early as possible to ensure that they can afford to keep living their desired lifestyle before the value of their hours is undercut. As far as this point goes, it's really just the financial independence movement with a dystopian cyberpunk spin on it. And look, individually, these people might actually have a point. Recent historical trends have overwhelmingly favored existing asset owners over workers, and new technology is only pushing this further in that direction. But it's also worth asking why this way of thinking is so popular with the very same people working to actually...
Just to be clear, this is largely a result of fucking money printing and deficit spending that is favoring asset. That's where the money goes. That's what we haven't seen much of the inflation from that break through to regular goods because the money that's printed goes to the wealthy, the connected, and the big banks, and they put it into assets. So we're seeing an inflation in asset prices as opposed to inflation in good cost and wage. We're seeing inflation in that now because it's been going on for so long. But like the post GFC years, 2008, where we started doing quantitative easing and printing money to fucking buy mortgage-backed securities, people thought, oh, it's going to be inflation. And there wasn't inflation. In this period, there was not inflation in goods. But that's because all of the printed money just stayed in the system of assets. And that's where you started to see real fucking asset growth.
Over workers, and new technology is only pushing this further in that direction. But it's also worth asking why this way of thinking is so popular with the very same people working to actually make that technology. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why the people closest to the future are the most desperate to escape it. This video is sponsored by SimpliSafe. There's no safe like SimpliSafe, the system I have been using to lock down my new studio. Thanks to SimpliSafe for sponsoring this video.
I got SimpliSafe.
Okay, so there's a very good reason why this idea has become so popular in Silicon Valley specifically. And that's because even before modern generative AI presented itself as such a threat to the ladder of social mobility, Silicon Valley was kind of already where people went to escape the permanent underclass. Social mobility...
I do think, maybe he's going to say this. This could seem pre-watched, but I swear to God. I haven't seen this before. I do think this type of thought, this I gotta escape the permanent underclass thought, coming out of Silicon Valley is not surprising because it's such a money and, I've lived there. It's a very money and status obsessed place. And all of these people are like grinders that want a lot of money, and they're in a constant competition where part of it is a huge amount of luck. Like if you're an equally talented engineer as someone else and you go to a company that IPOs, you have life-changing money. And if you go to a different company, I know, here's a perfect example. I know 2 engineers who worked at 2 different self-driving startups. One of them got acquired by Google and that guy made a ton of money. And one of them, Cruz, had like a car hit somebody and they got shut down. He lost all of his stock and equity. And they both worked the same amount of years, and they're both pretty equally talented. And then one of them made a lot of money and one of them got nothing for their time. And they didn't really have a choice over either one. Yeah, I think Fengo is correct, actually. It was a human person that hit a car into the driver or whatever. Like it wasn't even the car messing up. And so there's a luck aspect to that. And I think right now in Silicon Valley, you're hearing this type of talk more and more because there's a deep existential dread from all of these grinders who didn't get in on SpaceX, Anthropic, or OpenAI. Because right now, about, I don't know, tens of thousands of people are going to become overnight millionaires. In this year, as all these companies IPO, there's going to be a bunch of Anthropic employees, OpenAI employees, and SpaceX employees who are now going to make 10, 20, 30 million dollars. It's crazy. And they all know people around them who are now like astronomically different wealth classes for basically, they all went to the same schools. They all like worked about the same part. It was like the right company in the right time. And this is like this biggest year of IPOs, and they're all feeling it. They're all feeling like, oh fuck, if I don't make a company that fucking gets bought out or I get some big success, I'm going to fall drastically behind all my peers. It's just this weird way it's distributed.
Is not the same everywhere in America. Depending on where you grow up, your chances of moving from poor to wealthy can vary by a factor of 3. Raj Shetty's Opportunity Atlas, which maps economic mobility across every neighborhood in America, found that San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley, has one of the highest rates of upward mobility of any metro area in the country. A child born in the bottom fifth of the income distribution in San Jose has a 12.9% chance of reaching the top fifth by the age.
I mean, it worked for me. Just being dead honest. When I moved to San Jose, I was negative net worth. And when I left San Jose, I was pretty well off. Now, there was a lot of luck in that, but it did work. I'm just being honest. And San Jose is one of the worst goddamn cities in America. One of the worst goddamn cities in America. Literally zero culture, miserable, just a flat, empty expanse of nothing. There's no art, there's no music, there's no food, there's no anything. It's just rows of houses, big, empty, no one talks, and expensive housing. Everything's expensive.
Of 30. In Charlotte, North Carolina, that number is just 4.4%. Additionally, for what it's worth, the top fifth of income earners in San Jose are also on average taking home a lot more. So Silicon Valley is already seen as one of the last places where the economic ladder still kind of works, which makes the people living there, or more likely moving there, especially receptive to the idea that time for up or out is coming to an end. For a long time, this was the place where smart people could come and earn truly life-changing amounts of money, even if they didn't come from a wealthy background. Tech was arguably even more meritocratic than finance or big law or medicine, which all had their own gatekeeping mechanisms that favored people from the right schools or the right families.
True.
And a lot of the people who moved here had a similar plan. Work hard, save aggressively, vest some shares, and get out before you burn out. Now, I know this is a generalization, and things have changed recently.
Yeah,
but for a
they
long
have
time,
changed.
tech in particular also promoted a less ostentatious lifestyle than a similar high-end career in finance or law.
That has changed. It has changed, bro. The conspicuous consumption and the status of it is definitely more apparent in those areas, in the Bay Area.
People were earning genuinely ridiculous money in the Valley and still wearing company hoodies while primarily getting their entertainment from going on hikes and
Except for the furry guy. But even that, that's not a cheap fursuit. At the furry convention, he's kind of flexing, to be honest. He's kind of like, that's like wearing a fucking Richard Millet in a watch convention. People know you're fucking
video
balling.
games. Instead of buying ludicrously expensive housing, the culture of Silicon Valley workers was more pared back and focused on just watching number go up in their vesting and brokerage accounts. I know it's anecdotal, and I personally didn't work in tech, but when I lived and worked in San Francisco, I had 3 roommates who did work in tech and were all making more than enough money to live an extremely comfortable lifestyle anywhere else in the world. But the housing situation and the save everything you can culture in the area meant that we were all living between 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and this kind of arrangement was considered completely normal. Someone spending all of their money to live in the Valley, even if they could comfortably afford it, would be genuinely unusual. Again, at least in my own experience. They were doing this because most of them had a plan to make money and get out. Financial independence was already really popular amongst tech workers. The idea being, save enough, invest everything, build a portfolio large enough that you can live off the returns permanently, and then go do whatever you actually want to do with your life. The math behind it is pretty simple. A study from the 1990s found that if you withdraw about 4% of a diversified portfolio each year, it should last you indefinitely. So if your annual expenses are one—
Dude, it's so fucked up because all these people, none of them have diversified portfolios. They all make their money in tech and then invest all in on the peak of tech valuations. It's like, all their money is concentrated in like the tech company down the fucking street. It's such a double bet. And if there's any downturn, not only is your portfolio halved or wiped out, but you probably lose your job.
portfolio each year, it should last you indefinitely. So if your annual expenses are $100,000, you need $2.5 million invested. At $200,000 a year, you need $5 million. The target is 25 times your annual spending. Now, for most Americans, saving $2.5 million is a fantasy. The median household income is around $80,000. After taxes, housing, food, transportation, and the average $39,633 in student loan debt,
bro.
There's not a lot left over. But for a senior software engineer in San Jose making $400,000 a year at a company that also gives them restricted stock units that have been appreciating at 30% annually, it was clearly possible.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people who came from humble backgrounds, it really was just one of the last escape hatches left to financial security. Even for the people that didn't want to go and retire on a ranch in Colorado at the age of 35, a lot of tech working culture is still built around getting experience and saving up what is charmingly known as you money. The idea is that once you have this, you can leave the big company.
You ever seen this? This is like a literally inspirational movie to me. He's not even Kronk. He's Pacha. you fucker. He's not even Kronk. He's Pacha. Oh my God. Oh my God, bro. Anyway, keep it going. We're at the end. Gotta admit, he's giving Kronk.
Companies and go work for a startup or start your own business, without being destitute in the very likely scenario that it doesn't work out. So yeah, already before the whole AI fear and or hype cycle came around, tech bros were already fully on board with the idea of jumping social classes. Additionally, this idea of living off your investment to either live a good life or double down into a startup feeds in really naturally to the third reason why tech bros have become so obsessed with this idea. It's just really good marketing. Sam Altman has said publicly that AI will create the first one-person billion.
Have you guys seen that, like, Dario Amodei and Sam Altman and all these AI CEOs have, like, completely reversed course on the AI will take your job? They were saying it all the time, and, like, they all handshook agreed right before their IPOs to be like, you know what? It's actually going to create a lot of jobs. It's just funny because it's hard to tell. I mean, the truth probably lands in the middle, but both ways feel like marketing. When they were first saying it, it felt like marketing because they were just trying to make their product seem cool and like dangerous and powerful. You should invest in it because it's going to take all the jobs. But then when they started getting pushback on all the data centers and negative pressure on their IPOs, suddenly it was like, actually, it's going to be amazing for jobs, make a ton of jobs. And I think, yeah, again, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. It just feels like they're lying both ways.
$1 company. He even reportedly has a betting pool with his CEO friends about what year it will happen. Now, of course, we all know that Sam Altman would never say something just to hype up his own products. But if this is possible, it is probably going to happen in the tech sector where valuations are, well, generous. And a single person isn't going to be constrained by their physical limitations to produce tangible goods and services. Now, in response to statements like this, people working in this field either don't believe their own hype, in which case they might want to make as much money as they can before the bubble implodes, or if they do believe this narrative, then they think that business equity is about to become a lot more valuable. And this is the perfect time to be going out alone, of which the first step is gaining some level of financial independence. No matter which way you interpret the leaders in this space, they are basically just saying, don't be poor or get rich and die trying, depending on what take you prefer.
I mean, that's sort of always been the case. It's the lack of reliable ladders that's making it different now, but like this is not like a...
Either way,
Get Rich or Die Trying came out in 2001.
The nerdy tech bros that we have grown up with are kind of going through something. the culture in Silicon Valley has noticeably changed over recent years to become far more serious. It's gone from beanbag chairs and salad bars to 80-hour weeks, biohacking, and token maxing with a sprinkle of 10x productivity, whatever that means. The threat of being stuck in the permanent underclass, especially in a time of sweeping layoffs, is just a great narrative to keep tech workers on their #grindset.
Yeah, if you were to distill it to one thing, based on the people I talked to, or everyone that I know that still worked or worked out there, it's just the layoffs. It's not happening just in tech work, but there's a lot of layoffs there. People are just scared of being one of the people laid off. So they're like, they're staying later or working or like visually harder. People are just trying to like not be one of the people laid off because like that's a dramatic change. It's like hard to find a new job. I've used this example a couple of times, but this guy still hasn't found another job. Of a guy I know who worked at Meta. He was really highly paid at Meta. He got laid off and he hasn't been able to find anything close to that salary. And so it's like, people are worried about that because they got one of these fucking gravy train tech jobs and they don't want to fucking.
So far in 2026, over 108,000 tech workers have been laid off. That is on top of roughly 122,000 in 2025 and 150,000 in 2024. Companies are naturally framing many of these cuts as AI-related restructuring. But Deutsche Bank analysts wrote in January that AI redundancy washing will be a significant feature in 2026, which is a polite way of saying that a lot of companies are just using AI as an excuse to fire people they already wanted to get rid of.
Hey, I just did a video on this with Primogen, not the one you're thinking of that was on my channel. We did a separate one breaking down 5 different companies' layoff announcements on the prime time. Let's see. Layoffs are getting wild featuring Big A. First time I've been credited as Big A instead of Atrioc. This came out 11 hours ago. Worth checking out. It was cool. I approached it from a business perspective and he did it from a tech perspective, and I think we had a good conversation. It was pretty good. I like talking to that guy.
Because it sounds better in investor letters than, we massively overhired post-pandemic and are now spending too much on CapEx. Entry-level tech job postings specifically have dropped 50% at major tech companies compared to pre-pandemic levels.
I talked about it in the video. The one company that, I mean, not the one, but one of the recent companies that did massive layoffs and specifically said it's not AI, their stock cratered. It was Intuit. I did a stock of the week thing on Lemonade Stand about it, but they had, I think they're the largest fall of any big company in the past month of stock. They lost like half their value, and it's because they do these layoffs, and they said it wasn't AI. The market was like, well, then you're fucked.
And hiring of new.
Did Aiden cry? Yeah, he cried. Aiden, but I consoled him by telling him that Tucker Carlson's still doing well, so he was okay. Aiden, when it comes to TurboTax and Tucker Carlson, is such a big fan. He loves them both so much that at least one has to be doing well.
Graduates by the 15 largest tech firms has fallen by more than half, according to an analysis by the SF Standard. If your employees genuinely believe that the window for financial security is closing, they are going to work harder, demand less, and be less likely to push back on that optional weekend deployment. Now, I know this isn't exactly shocking to anybody that's been watching Silicon Valley.
Wait, I want to show you one tease from that video because it applies to this.
Literally, like
that guy, but I'm not an expert on ClickUp. Maybe they are. I'm not gonna.
You're not that guy, pal.
I don't. Watch this.
Okay,
clip.
so I say, so you're confused. They released this video. Watch it. So he's walking with his boss.
This is a company released this. Their CEO released this video before doing layoffs.
7 days before they released this video. Watch it. So he's walking with his boss. They see AI dancing. Okay. They're confused. And then the employee is like, what is this? Boss is gone, now dancing with the AI. He's confused. Boss kicks the cup and splashes it into the employee's face.
Crazy. What the?
Literally, like literally 1 week before firing everyone from AI. They released a video like...
I mean, I can't imagine not seeing how that looks to people you're about to fucking lay off. It's crazy. It blows my mind. It blew my mind. I hadn't seen that clip. I'm surprised you guys didn't link that clip.
for the past 3 years, and it's certainly not surprising to people actually on the inside. But again, the logical response to this is using the time that they do have to make sure that they can escape the permanent underclass before they get smited off the last ladder up. Outwardly, it's also clearly a marketing spin to make their companies look all-powerful.
Right.
Who wouldn't want to invest in the company that's going to define permanent haves and have-nots, right? If these companies promote the idea that their technology is going to reshape the social fabric like the steam engine did during the Industrial Revolution, it goes a long way to rationalize their extreme investments into this technology, especially as the industry lines up to take 2.5 AI companies through particularly public initial public offerings this year. And of course, it's worth pointing out that if these listings go well, the tech workers themselves will probably have everything they need to escape the underclass for good. So there is something of a perverse incentive to play along. And well, yeah, this is objectively the most sensible course of action for these people to be taking individually. But
I think these IPOs are such a clustercluck, man. These IPOs, all three of these companies, waiving the profitability rule, going in on accelerated timelines, just dumping on the public. And it's like the valuations are so extreme. All the growth happened in private markets and they're just dumping it at the end. I'm so nervous about them. It's like it reminds me, you know, it's not the same thing, but there's such a parallel to the fucking IPO frenzy of like 2000 and 2001. Yeah, it's just a big fucking cash out.
Still really hard to ignore the irony of escaping the permanent underclass by riding the investment returns of creating that underclass in the first place. It sounds dumb, but it's also not anything new. And if you don't believe me, go and watch this next video to find out why tech bros in particular seem to never learn any of the—
Good video. Thank you. How money works. Very interesting. We'll see how it plays out. I do think the Anthropic, OpenAI, and SpaceX IPOs this year are like the biggest story to watch. Especially if they pop high initially, which they will do, and then you look forward 6 months and they're down. It's like, holy fuck, they just fleeced. They just fleeced the public.